Was this even happening right now? James Barrington shouted into the phone, his voice bouncing off the modern glass walls of his office on the 50th floor of Barrington Enterprises. The CEO, a self-made billionaire, paced anxiously, casting a worried glance out of the panoramic windows. He watched as a group of foreign executives stepped out of sleek black sedans that had just pulled up to the entrance. The translator he had lined up for the meeting had just canceled at the last moment, citing an urgent personal issue that needed immediate attention. In less than 20 minutes, a high-level delegation from the largest tech firm in Japan was scheduled to sit down at the conference table for what was meant to be a deal worth $200 million. Barrington had spent years building his company, but now, everything seemed ready to fall apart over a simple matter of language. "James, I've called every translator in the city," said Kelly, his right-hand assistant, her voice tense as she held the phone to her ear. "None of them are available for a meeting of this importance, especially on such short notice." James pulled at his necktie, beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. 2 decades of hard work building his empire, and now it all hung in the balance. The Japanese delegation was known for their meticulous nature and their insistence on clear, precise communication. Using apps or body language would not suffice with them. Suddenly, a quiet voice interrupted the tension in the room. "Excuse me, Mr. Barrington. I speak Japanese." Everyone in the room turned toward the young woman standing at the far corner, holding a mop in one hand and a cloth in the other. It was Maya Simmons, 28, a member of the cleaning staff who had worked on the executive floors for several years. She always kept to herself, invisible to the high-powered individuals who passed through the offices each day. The room fell silent, the only sound the hum of the air conditioning. Kelly chuckled nervously. "Maya, this isn't the time for jokes. We're talking about an international deal worth millions of dollars here." James looked at Maya for a moment, his expression shifting from frustration to curiosity. "You speak Japanese?" he asked, his voice tinged with doubt, but also an undercurrent of desperation. "Yes," Maya replied calmly, her posture poised. "Japanese, some Chinese, and I also know a bit of Korean. I studied linguistics at university before I started working here." James looked at her more closely, trying to make sense of what he was hearing. "I've been cleaning this floor for 3 years, listening in on every conversation, observing the strategies, the discussions," Maya continued, her voice steady. "I may not have been in those meetings, but I've learned a lot." Kelly's face tightened, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. "James, are you seriously considering this? A cleaning staff member? We can't let someone like that represent us in such an important meeting." But James, feeling cornered, was desperate. There was something about Maya's confidence and calm demeanor that made him pause. "Prove it," he said abruptly, his mind racing. "Say something in Japanese." Maya took a deep breath, then spoke in flawless Japanese. The clarity and precision in her voice were undeniable. James, though not understanding the language, could sense the authenticity and professionalism in every word. "What did you say?" he asked, still stunned. Maya translated, her voice even. "I've said it's an honor to meet you all, and I look forward to a productive and beneficial partnership between our companies." James took a moment, trying to digest everything. Rebecca crossed her arms, clearly skeptical. "James, think about how this will look to them. What will the Japanese delegation think when they realize you've brought someone who cleans the floors into an executive meeting?" At that moment, a memory hit Maya like a wave. 6 months ago, when she had overheard Kelly disparaging her in the restroom, calling her a cleaning girl and mocking her for always hanging around the important meetings. Maya had heard it all, but chose not to respond. She remembered every word. For a few moments, James stared at Maya, his mind racing. There was something about her, an intelligence, a quiet strength that no one else seemed to notice. He realized that, in all the time she'd been working there, she'd probably learned more about the company than some of his senior executives. "All right," James said finally. "You've got 20 minutes. Go get yourself ready, dress appropriately, and meet me in the conference room." As Maya left in a hurry to prepare, Kelly leaned in and muttered angrily, You've completely lost it, James. When this blows up, your career is over. But James wasn't listening. For the first time, he realized that the most valuable people often go unnoticed. Maya had been preparing for this moment in a way no one could have imagined. And as for Kelly, with her thinly veiled prejudice, she was about to learn a harsh lesson. Underestimating someone based on appearances was the greatest mistake one could make. 20 minutes later, when Maya entered the conference room, the atmosphere shifted instantly. She had shed her cleaning uniform and replaced it with a simple but elegant black dress she had borrowed from the receptionist. Her hair was tied back neatly, and she held a notepad like any seasoned professional. "Is that Maya?" muttered Thomas, the CFO, his voice filled with disbelief. Kelly, not bothering to keep her voice down, whispered to her assistant, "You can polish a rock, but it's still just a rock." The Japanese delegation had arrived right on time, their 5 executives impeccably dressed, each wearing a calm expression as they took in the views of the city. James made the introductions, careful to leave out Maya's role as part of the cleaning staff. "This is Maya Simmons, our new international relations consultant for the Asian market." The delegation leader, Mr. Tanaka, greeted Maya with a formal bow. When she responded in perfect Japanese, praising their punctuality and the honor of meeting them, his eyes lit up with genuine appreciation. For the next 15 minutes, Maya translated with precision, not just the words, but the subtle nuances of the conversation, the cultural context, the tone, the little jokes that made everyone laugh. The meeting flowed smoothly, and the delegation was clearly impressed. At that point, Kelly decided to intervene, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Perhaps we should tell our guests about Maya's unique career journey here," she said, her smile sharp. James shot her a warning look, but Kelly went on, "It's inspiring to see someone who's worked their way up, moving from humble beginnings." The condescension in her tone was obvious. Maya felt that familiar pang of humiliation, a feeling she had known all too well since dropping out of university to care for her sick mother. She had sacrificed everything for her family, and now she was being looked down upon by the very people who were about to depend on her. "Life has a way of presenting us with opportunities when we least expect them," Maya said, her voice steady and composed, as Mr. Tanaka watched the conversation unfold with growing confusion. "Who would have thought," she continued, "that a person who was cleaning these very floors just 3 years ago would be sitting at this table today?" She let the words linger, allowing the room to absorb the weight of the statement. "It speaks volumes about how our company values diversity in every form." The room fell into a heavy silence. Maya could see the subtle shift in Mr. Tanaka's expression, surprise mixed with discomfort. It wasn't disdain, but it was clear that the Japanese executives were taken aback. In their culture, respect for professional hierarchies was deeply ingrained. Before the moment could linger too long, David spoke up, trying to regain control. "What Kelly meant to say," he said, his voice firm but trying to smooth things over, "is that we value talent wherever we find it." But the damage had already been done. For the next several minutes, Maya could feel the eyes of the executives subtly shift when they looked at her. Though they were still polite, and the translation continued as needed, the natural flow of the conversation had evaporated. She wasn't a colleague or a professional. She had become a curiosity. In that moment, something clicked inside Maya. For 3 years, she had silently cleaned these rooms, listened to every conversation, absorbed every tactic, every strategic misstep made by the top brass. She had been invisible, but in that invisibility, she had gained knowledge no one else had. And now, she realized it was her turn to make an impact. She had witnessed Rebecca's mistakes, like the time Rebecca manipulated sales figures to impress a client, or when she claimed credit for a project developed by a team member who was later fired. Maya had seen it all, kept track of it all, every discrepancy, every unethical decision. And now, it was all stored in her mind. The meeting wrapped up with the Japanese delegation expressing a vague, tentative interest. "We'll carefully review your proposal," Mr. Tanaka said with a smile, a diplomatic phrase that meant, "Maybe, but we'll keep our options open." Once the delegation had left, Kelly couldn't hide her smugness. "Well, that was interesting," she commented, flipping through her papers with an exaggerated flourish. "Maybe next time, we should be more upfront about the qualifications of our team." David's frustration was obvious, but before he could respond, Maya stood up, calm as ever. "Kelly," she said quietly, her voice now carrying an unmistakable authority. "Mr. Tanaka mentioned something before he left." Kelly raised an eyebrow, pretending to be curious. "Oh, really? Like what?" Maya smiled faintly. "He said he was impressed by my language skills, but there was something he found odd about the structure of the meeting." Kelly's face tightened. "What do you mean?" Maya's smile grew more deliberate. "He mentioned that in their culture, the person responsible for the translation is typically seen as the lead negotiator, the one who holds authority. He seemed confused that I wasn't introduced that way." Kelly's face shifted from curiosity to uncertainty as the implications of Maya's words sank in. Maya had won this round. For years, she had been invisible, but now she was making her presence felt. What Kelly didn't realize was that every insult, every snide remark, every undermining comment had only fueled something more powerful than resentment. It had been creating a strategist who now understood every weakness and every secret in the corporate machine. 2 hours after the meeting ended, Maya was back in her navy blue uniform, silently pushing her cleaning cart down the same executive hallways she had walked for the past 3 years. But now, every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. She knew the layout of the building like the back of her hand. She had mentally mapped every important conversation, every slip-up, every forgotten document left carelessly on a desk, especially Rebecca's. "Look who's back where she belongs," Kelly's voice rang out, loud enough for the executives in the hallway to hear. She was talking to Jennifer from accounting. "At least now we know exactly who belongs where, right?" Maya continued her work, her hands moving automatically while her mind absorbed every word. She didn't need to respond. She didn't even need to acknowledge Kelly. But she heard everything. Kelly had no idea that, during those 3 years, while she'd been cleaning Rebecca's office, Maya had seen it all. Emails left open, phone conversations about shady contracts, and most importantly, documents hidden in Rebecca's bottom drawer. "You know what really bothers me?" Kelly continued, oblivious to Maya's presence. "David actually thought a cleaning lady could save a $200 million deal. As if 3 years of cleaning bathrooms made her qualified to sit with real executives." Maya didn't flinch. Her phone buzzed softly, a discreet vibration in her pocket. It was a message from an unknown number, but written in Chinese characters. Maya recognized the sender immediately. It was from Mr. Tanaka. "Ms. Simmons, I would like to speak with you privately regarding your role with our company and potential opportunities. Could we meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Mandarin Cafe on 42nd Street? I have a proposal that may interest you." Maya's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just about translation anymore. This was about something much bigger. Mr. Tanaka had seen her composure, her intelligence, her quiet power under pressure. That night, in her small Brooklyn apartment, Maya sat down at her desk and opened a file on her computer that she had been building for the past 2 years. This wasn't about paranoia. It was about preparation. Every company has its secrets, and in the silence of her work, Maya had gathered enough information to bring everything crashing down if she chose to. The file, titled Barrington Enterprises Irregularities, contained 63 pages of evidence. Emails Rebecca thought she deleted, call logs, and photos of documents that proved Rebecca's underhanded dealings. Most damning of all were the records of 3 sabotage attempts against smaller companies run by people of color. Maya had seen Rebecca manipulate clients, steal credit for others' work, and use her position to block promotions for those she deemed unfit. And now, the time had come for everything to come to light. Lisa leaned in, her voice calm but pointed. "Our company is expanding its operations in North America. We need someone who understands both the nuances of Chinese culture and the dynamics of American business. Someone who has seen how things really work from the inside." She paused, exchanging a meaningful glance with Mr. Tanaka, who added with a knowing smile, and someone who has the grace not to bow to those who hold power without merit. For the next 2 hours, Maya spoke effortlessly, explaining market strategies, the cultural differences in negotiations, and how often American companies underestimated the sophistication and depth of Asian business acumen. She subtly hinted at irregularities she had observed in rival firms, without naming names, carefully crafting a narrative that hinted at her knowledge without revealing too much. When Lisa slid a business card across the table, Maya read the name, Simmons and Partners International Consulting. The offer was clear. The salary on the card was more than 5 times what she made at Barrington Enterprises. A true opportunity. Mr. Tanaka rose from his seat, his expression serious. "Consider our offer," he said. "But there is one condition. We would like you to help us investigate discrepancies we found in Barrington Industries contracts. We have evidence suggesting potential violations of federal international trade regulations." Maya held the card firmly in her hand. For 3 years, she had been treated as invisible. Now, 2 of Asia's top business minds were offering her not just a job, but an alliance. Lisa spoke quietly, almost as if sharing a secret. "There's an emergency meeting at Barrington Industries tomorrow. The Chinese delegation has filed a formal complaint about irregularities in your company's contracts. It could be useful for you to attend." That evening, Maya called her mother. "Remember how you always said that patience is a wise woman's most powerful weapon?" Maya asked. "Of course, honey. Why?" her mother replied. "I think I finally understand what you meant," Maya answered, a slight smile crossing her lips. As she hung up the phone, Maya looked out at the Manhattan skyline from her apartment window. Tomorrow, Rebecca and the entire Barrington team would learn the truth. 3 years of invisibility had forged something far more powerful than a disgruntled employee. It had created a strategist who understood the company's every weakness, every secret, every lie. And now, Maya was ready to strike at the moment they least expected it. The next morning, the executive boardroom at Barrington Enterprises was filled with tension. David had called an emergency meeting after receiving a formal report from the Chinese delegation regarding serious contractual discrepancies that could lead to a federal investigation. Rebecca entered the room confidently, her vibrant red suit and high heels commanding attention as her footsteps echoed through the hallway. She had spent the night preparing a defense, certain she could shift the blame to the cleaning staff member David had foolishly brought to the previous meeting. "Well, I'm sure we're all here to discuss yesterday's debacle," Rebecca began, addressing the 7 board members. "As I warned, putting an unqualified employee in such an important negotiation was reckless. Now, we're facing the loss of $200 million. That's when the door opened quietly. Maya entered the room, dressed in a sharply tailored gray suit, a suit she had purchased the night before using the advance the Chinese company had given her. She carried a leather briefcase and a laptop, exuding the quiet confidence of someone who had finally found their true calling. "I'm sorry I'm late," Maya said, her voice calm but resolute as she took her seat next to David. "I was finalizing some crucial information for today's meeting." Rebecca's face contorted in barely concealed frustration. "With all due respect, David, I don't understand why she's here." "This is an executive meeting," Rebecca snapped. "She's here," David replied coolly, "because the Chinese delegation specifically requested her presence to address the accusations they've made." Maya opened her laptop with precise movements. "Mr. Tanaka came to see me yesterday afternoon with concerns about Barrington Industries' contracting practices," she began, her voice calm. "They found evidence of bid rigging and sabotage against competing companies." Rebecca's voice rose in outrage. "That's absurd. What kind of evidence could a cleaning lady possibly have about executive operations?" A soft, almost dangerous smile spread across Maya's face. "The kind of evidence you gather when you're invisible for 3 years and people forget you're listening." Rebecca's expression faltered, the first flicker of fear crossing her eyes. Maya connected her laptop to the projector. The first image that appeared was an internal email from Rebecca, sent to a client 6 months earlier, containing confidential information about a rival company's proposal. The silence in the room was deafening. Rebecca tried to interrupt, but Maya pressed on, relentless. This second document shows how you intentionally inflated the costs of projects led by minority employees, forcing cancellations, and then attributing them to their supposed incompetence. On the screen appeared spreadsheets with clear alterations, internal emails, and security system recordings. For 3 years, Maya had quietly documented every irregularity. "This is a setup," Rebecca screamed, standing up and pointing at Maya. "She's fabricating evidence to get revenge because I exposed her true position in the company." Maya remained seated, her gaze unwavering. "Mr. David, the next recording I'm about to play was made by the company's own security system 8 months ago." Rebecca's voice echoed through the room speakers. "We can't allow these types of people to think they belong in executive meetings. It's a matter of maintaining appropriate standards in the company." Rebecca went white, recognizing the conversation immediately. A private exchange with Thomas about keeping the company free of unsuitable elements. Maya continued, displaying another recording. "And this one is from 2 weeks ago, when you instructed the receptionist to lose resumes from candidates with ethnic-sounding names. One of the directors, Mr. Johnson, a seasoned African-American board member, leaned forward, his face grim. "Rebecca, is this true?" That's out of context." Rebecca stammered, beads of sweat forming on her forehead. "You don't understand the pressure I was under to maintain company standards." "Company standards," Maya said softly, "include ethics, integrity, and compliance with federal anti-discrimination laws, laws that have been systematically violated over the past 18 months. David turned to Rebecca, his expression unreadable. "You have 30 seconds to explain why you shouldn't be fired for cause and reported to the district attorney." Rebecca looked around the table desperately, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of sympathy, but none came. Rebecca looked around the room, finding only disapproving gazes and disgusted frowns. "You're making a terrible mistake," she murmured, her voice faltering. "She's just a bitter cleaning lady who—" David cut her off, his voice firm and authoritative. "She is our new director of international relations, and as for you—" He paused for a moment, letting the weight of his words sink in. "You're fired." The room was plunged into silence. Rebecca stood there, swaying slightly, her mind reeling as she processed that her 15-year career had crumbled in a matter of moments. "Your access will be revoked immediately," David continued. "Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings. And Rebecca," he added, his tone sharp, "considering the gravity of the evidence presented, we will be forwarding everything to the federal attorney's office." As security escorted Rebecca out of the room, she shot one last venomous look at Maya. "You may have one today," she spat, "but it doesn't change what you really are." Maya met her gaze with unshakable calm. "You're right. I am exactly what I've always been. Someone who watches, learns, and waits for the right moment to act. The difference is now, I'm finally where I've always belonged." 3 hours later, the meeting ended with Maya officially appointed to her new position. David pulled her aside, his curiosity evident. "How did you do it?" 3 years of evidence, recordings, and documents. "How did you pull this off?" Maya smiled, a rare expression of satisfaction. "We're treated like furniture. People forget that furniture has eyes and ears." Rebecca underestimated the power of invisibility and overestimated the value of her own arrogance. As she glanced around at her new office overlooking Manhattan, Maya realized something profound. The greatest revenge wasn't in destroying Rebecca. It was in building something far greater than she had ever imagined. The future was hers to shape, and no one could erase her mark now. 6 months later, Maya Parker sat behind her new glass desk on the 38th floor of Barrington Enterprises, surrounded by contracts in Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. Her work had already generated $400 million in new business from Asian markets. Jasmine, Jennifer, now her personal assistant, entered the room. "The South Korean delegation is here. They're eager to meet the woman who tripled our business in Asia in just 6 months." Looking out the window at the city, she had once observed only as a quiet cleaning lady, Maya smiled inwardly. Now, as the director of international relations, she was one of Manhattan's most respected executives. Her new salary allowed her to provide the best medical treatment for her mother and finish her master's degree at Columbia University. "What about the Forbes meeting next week?" Jennifer asked, consulting her busy schedule. "Confirmed," Maya replied, adjusting her navy blue blazer. "They want to discuss my inclusion on the list of the country's most influential young female executives." Across town, Rebecca sat alone in her small Queens apartment. Her coffee table was cluttered with therapy bills and rejection letters from companies after her fall from grace. The federal investigation into her discriminatory practices had resulted in a $50,000 fine and a 5-year ban from holding executive positions in companies with federal contracts. Her name was now synonymous with toxic leadership. That morning, Rebecca saw Maya's photo on the cover of Business Week magazine, smiling confidently with Chinese executives. The headline read, "The translator who revolutionized international business." The irony hit Rebecca hard. Back at Barrington Enterprises, David called a meeting to announce the company's exceptional performance. "Maya Parker not only saved our deal with the Chinese," he said, "she's opened doors to markets we never dreamed possible." Mr. Johnson, the senior black director who had witnessed Rebecca's disgrace, stood up to give a speech. "In my 40 years in corporate America, I've never seen a transformation as dramatic as Maya's. She's proven that talent has no color, no social class, and it certainly doesn't hide behind prejudice." The room erupted in applause, but Maya remained seated, modestly accepting the recognition. She remembered when she had cleaned this very boardroom just 7 months ago. That night, in her new Upper East Side apartment, Maya received a call from her mother. "Honey, I saw your interview on television today. You spoke so eloquently about second chances." "I learned from the best," Maya responded. "You always told me that people can try to diminish us, but they can never diminish what we know and what we're capable of." When asked about Rebecca during the interview, Maya calmly said, "Rebecca gave me the greatest gift anyone could give. She showed me exactly who I didn't want to become. Her arrogance and prejudice taught me that true power comes from lifting others up, not stepping on them." 3 weeks later, Maya returned to Howard University to announce a scholarship program for low-income students who had paused their education due to financial hardship. "No one should have to choose between family and dreams," she told the audience. "The Second Chance program, funded partly by my salary, has approved 20 full scholarships." Rebecca, watching the ceremony online, turned off her computer with tears of regret, not self-pity, for the first time in months. Meanwhile, Maya returned to the office where she had once pushed a cleaning cart. Now respected, she mentored 5 promising employees. "You could have destroyed Rebecca personally," David said, "but you only exposed her misconduct." Maya smiled. "The best revenge is building something so extraordinary that it renders everything they tried to do irrelevant." Maya proved that talent, dignity, and preparation can overcome any obstacle. She turned 3 years of invisibility into the greatest advantage of her career, showing that true leadership comes from recognizing potential, not limitations.